chocolate cake recipe. We've got a new caramel chocolate frosting. We have some shortbread crumbs in there and my salted caramel. So we're gonna start with the salted caramel, get that made and have it refrigerate so it's nice and chilled a little bit before we actually put it in our buttercream or in between our layers. Then we'll do the shortbread crust, our cake layers, our buttercream, and stack and decorate. All right, so we're gonna start with the salted caramel. Now I like a little bit of that salt because again, it balances all the sweet and the bittersweet chocolate and the milk chocolate that we have going on. So I do like to add some good coarse salt in there. But before we do that, we're gonna start just on the stove and we're gonna go to medium heat and I'm gonna add my sugar, some water, and a little bit of corn syrup. And we're gonna let these three ingredients cook for just a little while. And you'll notice it starts out clear, but what we're gonna be looking for is a beautiful amber color and it almost smells a little burnt. That's when you know you're at the perfect consistency and color. So mix your sugar just a little bit, get that dissolved into your water, and then you kind of just sit back and wait, but don't step away. You need to keep your eye on it because once it starts browning, it goes quick. So this is the ideal color. Can you see that rich amber color? It smells just slightly like it's starting to burn just a little bit. And let's check the temperature just in case you want to use your candy thermometer. I'm about at 400 degrees. So we have that number if you need it. Now we're taking it off the heat. And I've got my heavy cream, but you can't just add all your cream into your caramel mixture just at once. What's gonna be best is actually let's heat this cream for a few seconds, get it warm so it doesn't harden up when it hits the heat. So our cream is a little bit warm, but you'll still see it bubbles a little bit, sizzles. So just do a little bit at a time while you get a facial from the steam. And we're gonna just gradually add our cream. Now, I did like a cup of sugar to begin with. So I'm using less than a cup of cream. Don't pour it all in once because we want to get like a thicker mixture. So we don't need a full cup of cream. I'm going with about 2/3 cup of my heavy cream. So I have about 2/3 of cream in my caramel. Now I'm going to add some vanilla. And a little bit of salt. And we'll just stir that now, and it's gonna thicken a little bit more as it cools. So we're gonna let this cool to room temperature and then put it in the refrigerator to use for our buttercream and a little bit, and to pour it in the center of our cake with our shortbread filling. It's time for the shortbread. Now this is gonna be a crumble. Sometimes I've used it as a crust underneath the cake layers. This time we're just gonna put it on a baking sheet and crumble it between our layers because we want the caramel to just spill right over that, kind of eat those together with every single bite. So this is just really simple. It's kind of like pie crust. We're just gonna do some butter, some sugar, and some flour. And I'm just gonna kind of pulse my mixer a little bit to break up the butter. Because we're really just kind of creating a sand texture, a lot like pie. To break through some of the bigger clumps of butter, you can just grab one of these little dough cutters, right? I never make pie, don't tell my mom. But I have one of these. All right, so we're just gonna break it up again so it's kind of like a sandy texture. So we're looking for our flour to kind of be moist from all that butter and the sugars mixed in, but it's still gonna be very crumbly. We're just gonna put this on our baking sheet and then put it in the oven at 325 for just about 10 minutes. It's gonna be a little golden brown is what we're looking for. And then we'll let it cool completely before we add it to our cake layers. For these chocolate cake layers, we're gonna do more of a milk chocolate cake layer. Instead of my normal rich dark chocolate that I love so much, these ones have a less chocolatey flavor. It's just more of a milk chocolate, so it's not gonna be so in your face. And then we can get the good flavors of the caramel and the shortbread, and then our chocolate caramel buttercream as well. So what we're gonna do with this one is this one actually starts with some butter and then a little brown sugar and some white sugar. Remember, beating your butter and your sugar together for a little while before you put all the other ingredients in helps the butter and the sugar to get light and fluffy, and that's gonna help your cake to rise more evenly once everything else is mixed in. Once your sugars are mixed with your butter really nicely, we're gonna add our eggs and mix again on medium-high for a couple minutes. After those are mixed, go ahead and add your cocoa powder to your flour and just stir those together so they're well blended. Now we're gonna hold off on adding our leavening agent, which is the baking soda, because much like a red velvet, we're gonna do vinegar and baking soda together at the very end and fold that in. But we also have some buttermilk and a little sour cream. This cake is so moist and delicious. Low speed, just so things don't fly all over the place. We're gonna add some of our dry ingredients and then a little buttermilk, and we're gonna alternate until we finish with our flour mixture. Alternating between the two ingredients, the buttermilk and the flour mixture, just ensures that everything mixes really well. All right, once you don't see any streaks of the dry ingredients anymore, let's go ahead and take the bowl off our mixer. Get the rest of the dry ingredients, scrape this down. Just mix it by hand for just a couple seconds to scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Next, we're gonna fold in our sour cream. And then stir in 1 teaspoon of your vanilla extract. And then last but not least, you've got your vinegar and your baking soda. So we're gonna pour this in and you'll see it sizzles. Give it a little stir, and then we're gonna fold this into our batter as well. All right, with the cake batter made, we're ready to pour it into our 3 8-inch pans. So each one has been sprayed with nonstick spray. I line the bottom with parchment paper and then I spray again. I love to use a scale to measure out the batter so I have equal amounts, which means your cake is going to bake nice and evenly. All right, set it to 0 and let's measure out how much batter we need. These are also gonna bake at 325, about 30 to 35 minutes. Just depending on your oven. So let's start with this. Don't worry, I'll let you know how much I'm putting in here in just a second. I didn't write it down earlier and I did all my testing. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be yummy. Still smells so chocolatey and yummy. Need a little bit more in this one. There's gonna be nice thick layers too. All right, we're looking at about 20 to 21 ounces in each of these 8-inch cake pans. Ooh, I'm happy over there. Smooth it out if you need to, if it doesn't look like it went in evenly. All right, I'm gonna bake these, make my buttercream, let them cool, and then we're ready to stack and decorate. So my chocolate ganache is made and just cooling just a little bit so it's not piping hot going into the bowl. We're gonna add 2 cups of our unsalted butter. And remember, this is slightly cold. And we're going to kind of soften the texture as we mix it. And it does get a little softer because we're adding the warm ganache, but if it ever gets too soft, just throw the whole combination of ingredients. Once you have everything mixed, your frosting is made, you can put it in the refrigerator to set up just a little bit. So I'm gonna beat my butter for a couple minutes on medium high, then add my ganache. Gonna stop it for a minute, scrape down the sides of the bowl just like we did earlier with our other buttercream to get that chocolate off the sides, because anything that does get left there will harden up because it cools. So we want to mix that before it sets. So get the sides scraped down. We'll mix again before we add some of our salted caramel we just made. All right, it's definitely softened, but no worries, we still need to add our powdered sugar. We can put it in the refrigerator for a minute. I'm gonna start with 1/4 cup of my salted caramel, but if you want more of a caramel flavor in your buttercream, add a little bit more. Let's start with this though and see what we think. Got my powdered sugar already measured and then sifted, so we'll gradually add this in. Do a little taste test, maybe add a little bit more salt if I think we need it, maybe a little bit more caramel. And once that powdered sugar is mixed pretty well, we're gonna turn it up to medium high and beat for a couple minutes. All right, so that's a 1/2 cup total of our salted caramel. And I'm gonna throw in just a little bit more salt, because you know me, I love that extra salty flavor. Okay, let's mix this. Perfect. Now the fun stuff. We get to stack and decorate this Twix cake. We're gonna start with our chocolate cake layers. We're gonna add a little bit of our caramel chocolate frosting, some shortbread crumbs, some Twix, and drizzle a little caramel between each layer. And then we're gonna finish it off with all the rest of the buttercream. A nice little design, probably from one of my textured scrapers, and maybe throw on a few more Twix on the top. I usually put a little bit of buttercream right down on the board just to hold the cake in place. And then I'm gonna put my first layer right in the center of my 8-inch cake board, so center that. And then I'm only gonna put about a 1/2 cup of my buttercream between these layers, because I'm putting a lot of other goodies in here as well. And remember, if your buttercream feels too soft, you can go ahead and put it in the fridge to harden up just a little bit. I'm using the offset icing spatula. Remember, we use this a lot in our first class as well as the second class, but I like using this one between layers and on the top of the cake. Okay, and just remember, we're holding the spatula so that the corner here and the edge are always touching our buttercream. Now we're gonna start to layer in all these yummy goodies. We've got the shortbread crust, just golden brown after we baked it. Okay, and then we're gonna add a few of our Twix. Cut those up into semi-small pieces, but don't overload the center with all your fillings. We can always put some more on the top. We still need to be able to stuff this a little bit. And just like a Twix bar has the shortbread crust and then the caramel right on top of it, we're adding a little caramel between every layer. And you could take a drip bottle if you wanted to. You can just use a spoon or a little spatula like I am, and we're just going to drizzle it right over the top. Let it soak in to our filling. Yes. Now remember, my caramel is a little bit darker, but I like that kind of slightly burnt caramel taste. If you don't, just cook yours a little bit less so it's a lighter amber color, and you'll be good to go. Remember, it's cooled. We're not putting hot caramel into our buttercream. Now we're just ready to do that all over again. Get eye level, make sure everything looks nice and even. All right, that last cake layer is gonna go top side down. And now we're ready for our crumb coat. Remember, that's a thin layer of frosting that's gonna go around the entire cake, and then we're gonna freeze it for about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, so remember, we're gonna use our straight icing spatula on the sides. And if you have any open gaps like I do, don't worry, just go ahead and fill that with buttercream, kind of push that into place. See how we can see some of the cake underneath all that frosting? That's a crumb coat, just nice and thin. I'm gonna clean up just a little bit with my straight scraper. And I'm holding that scraper at about a 45-degree angle if I'm looking at it from my side. And then just go around lightly, take off just a little bit, clean up the top. So our crumb coat is done. It's been in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes, and now we're ready to finish decorating it. I'm not using my acrylic disc on this one because I'm gonna add some texture to the side. It's actually pretty easy to just put some buttercream on the top, the sides, smooth it out, create our texture, and then of course we'll add all these extra goodies on top. So first thing I like to do when I'm not using my acrylic disc is add the buttercream right to the top of the cake and use that offset icing spatula to level it out. Make sure things look nice and even. And a light touch is always helpful. You know that from the first class too. Light touch, light touch. Let's get eye level, make sure that looks nice and even. I think I need a little bit more right there. Now I'm gonna take that straight spatula and we're gonna just load up buttercream on the sides. Now, even though we're gonna use our straight scraper to smooth it out and get us ready before we use the textured scraper, we still wanna make sure that our cake sides are as straight as possible, even before we start scraping and smoothing things out. So like we do at the top, get eye level as you start to do the sides. Make sure this looks nice and even. Remember to go over the cake board at the bottom. We're covering that up. No one needs to see that. We're just gonna hide that. All right, even though I am going to use my little scalloped scraper for my first cake scraper set, I'm still gonna use the straight scraper just to smooth it out. My hands start at about 1 o'clock. My eye is on the scraper. And I'm just gonna bring that around lightly. We're gonna make sure things look straight. And if there's any pockets that are open like that, fill those in, because those will show up even when you do the texture. Go around one more time. What is so satisfying about smoothing out buttercream? I don't know, but I love it. Makes me happy. Okay, let's take that textured scraper and get some beautiful little lines on here. Oh, they're so cute, they're so subtle. Okay. All right, I'm not even gonna touch up the top. I love a little raw edge there. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of go with my usual, create like this little bit of a candy crown around the top, sprinkle out some of the extra little goodies. Now, if you want to pipe on this one, our buttercream is a little bit softer, so make sure that you refrigerate it for a little bit so it has a chance to set the butter after being warmed up a little bit by our ganache. Put all the extra Twix on here. My kids will be so happy I did. Of course, we need a little bit more of that shortbread crumb because this is just like buttery heaven right here. You could certainly fill the whole center if you wanted a lot of extras. And this is a drip bottle, so you could use it between the layers, and look, it's pink, it's coming to the shop soon. We're gonna just add some of our caramel to the top, just give it a little bit of a drizzle. Once it gets to the bottom, there we go. And I think I'm just gonna do a little bit of a swirly design, drizzle that right on top. Okay, I think we'll take some pictures and then dig in. Oh, the best part, we get to dig in and try this out. Nice big piece. I'm a chocolate caramel lover. Look at all that delicious goodness that we filled this cake with. Okay. Oh, the caramel on top of the shortbread. It's gonna be good. All right, taste test time. Oh. I mean, what else do you do but dance when you love a cake? Okay, the crunch, the Twix, the shortbread, the caramel chocolate frosting, the cake, oh my gosh. You're gonna love this cake. Lighter chocolate flavor, but it's so moist and tender. Then you don't lose up any of the other flavors to the chocolate cake. Oh, this buttercream, oh my gosh. I probably should have put more in the center because I'm gonna wanna lick my bowl clean.